Hello, and I am so excited to finally be able to make this video. My son has been doing the Good and the Beautiful math all of last year, and he's starting on level 4 this year. But he didn't get a chance to finish level 3 last year, so we just finished it a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to be able to talk about it and let you know my thoughts. So, just a background, I'm not a math teacher. So, when it comes to looking for homeschooling materials for teaching math, at the beginning, it was more of like, oh my gosh, I have 4 children and we're all taking math at the same time at different levels. And so at the beginning, it was like, what is the easiest? And so Singapore was what really got us through those early years where it was trying to just keep life together and babies and everything. And Singapore was fast. It was pretty easy at the beginning. And then we started getting to level like 4 with Singapore. And it became where there wasn't any, the one that we had didn't have any instructional videos or information. So I was like the sole source of let's teach long division. And so I'm searching for videos around. And you know how that is. It's like you want to make sure they feel comfortable with it. But you don't know what they're really getting. And so then I was starting to reassess, and I'm like, okay, I don't have the time, first of all, when I have 4 children in different subjects, levels, to teach each one of them and take an hour for math for each one. So I looked into doing teaching textbooks, which is all online. So they give you the intro, you do the practice, and it worked really well for my older son. But my second son, I could tell, was kind of bored of it. He's more of a hands-on guy, and so last year for him, I tried Good and the Beautiful level 5, and I made a video of that already, so you can check that out. And that worked really well. And so my third son, I said, well, you know what? Let's try it. We'll just do all across the board. So he tried level 3, and the good news so about my son, he really likes math. It's something that comes easy to him, and he feels pretty confident in it. And so overall, it was a lot of fun to do. It was not it wasn't super time consuming. What I liked about it was the stuff we were doing was fun to do together. So I really enjoyed sitting down with him, reading the material, and I felt like he grew a lot during the year. Now, as I said before, I'm not a math teacher. So I know for many of you, you've researched and done things and you may be much better at math. And so, because of that, you might not like this program if you're really into mastery. I know this has its own, like, there's the difference between spiral and mastery and different stuff. So, this is what I would call more of a spiral approach. It introduces a new topic each lesson, and then the review section will go back into some of the ones from before. What I've learned from my children is that you know your children best. And so you need to know where are the places they need to practice over and over again. So whether that means you supplement with flashcards or online games or just read making up some lessons that would be that specific topic, or maybe they're getting the math but the vocabulary isn't sticking, so maybe you create supplementary stuff related to that. But there's lots of options available out there to help you in that mastery level if that's what you're looking for. And there's lots of great programs out there that also focus on the mastery. And there's also ones that will be that would take less time. So really, as a family, it's something that you need to decide together. So what happens when you order the Good and the Beautiful Math 3? You get, well, for me, I chose to get 3 things. One option that's really cool is that if you wanted to, you could print off the entire school year worksheets and put them in a binder and then be done with it if you wanted to. If you have a great printer and you like, or you have a place you can spiral bind them or whatever, that's a great option. The one thing I learned though, if you try to print things off, you have to make sure that it's not, when you're flipping them back to back, don't go lengthwise. You have to go like hamburger size way, like flip them from the side to side. Otherwise, it doesn't really print the best. I tried a couple lessons that way and it didn't work. So what you're going to get if you choose to order the package is you're going to get your textbook. And one thing you'll notice is that my son's done the whole thing, which I'll walk you through, but it's kind of almost fallen apart. But after a year, all the main damage was that the binding almost came off, but really not too bad for a year's program. You're going to get an answer key. Again, if you're awesome at math, you may not like this. The reason I liked this, though, was that when you need to just quickly grade something and move on to the next thing, this was awesome because it's full color and it gives you all the answers that you could need. So it was just a nice quick, let's just check them. And then once you check the answers, you can go back and walk over with your kids anything they got wrong. So if you're like me, this is a great resource to have. You're also going to get this resource box. Now, I didn't know this, but last year there started becoming a recall for some of these because apparently the box there's a whiteboard on the back, but apparently some of the whiteboards started falling off and causing damage to people. I don't really know. So they did a recall in the middle of the year. And so I was able to get like another one sent to me, even though mine didn't really break. But anyway, so inside the box, there is an array mat. It's hard to see, sorry. An array mat. Then there's things on the back to practice the months of the year and different temperatures. And then there's going to be a bunch of different resources. Now, it broke for my son like in the last month, but this is a tape measure, which was awesome because he used it for lots of lessons. There's a whole bunch of dice related to different games that you played. So this one is like quarts and pints and that kind of stuff. So you play games with different ones. There's a 10-sided dice and there's a regular 6-sided dice. There's some game pawns because you will be playing games with your kids. And then there's a bunch of these tangram pieces, and I'll show you some examples of what those are used for. So the box, they don't use it every day, but they will occasionally pull it out as part of their lessons. So that's what you get when it comes to you. And then the book itself, like most things at the beginning, it's going to be reviewing stuff that they learned in the year before. So you're going to get the basics of, addition and subtraction and all that stuff. But what I like about this, again, we were coming from Singapore, which is like a black and white notebook. Now we're getting into full colors, but there's different activities that you can do. So at the very top, there's something that's called your, later on it's called like a mental activity, I guess you could say. So this is what you do with your child. And this one, for example, actually, let me go to a little bit later lesson so you can kind of see. All right, so this one was place value. So the first thing you do is you sit with your kid and you ask them, how many tens are in 350 and 480? What's the value of the digit 2 with the number 6,297? What digit is in the 10 millions place? And then there's like a giant number. And then they ask you to practice skip counting. So they were doing skip count by 9s from 9 to 99, skip count by 50s backward from 500 to 0. So this little green box at the beginning of a lesson is what I would call the assess to see where they're at. If they can't do the stuff in this box, that would probably tell you, all right, we need to back up and do some review of the stuff from the time before. And then you sit with the child and they'll tell you the instructions. Now, for your kids who are super smart and love to read by themselves, by the time you get halfway through the year, they might be able to do some of this themselves. Some of the lessons in particular are really maybe easy concepts for them. So maybe they can do this whole lesson by themselves. Other ones might need a little bit, especially if they're struggling with reading. But the cool thing is they give you information about cultures all around the world. So it started off in Asia and we ended up, I think it was either in Scotland or in Australia. No, Scotland. So we kind of went all over the world to different countries. So in the pictures, no, it's kind of lame. I would guess it's because I love art and stuff. But in the pictures, you have houses and different scenes from all around the world. You have maps that you look at. And then throughout, there's also just culture lessons about those places. And they use that culture in the lesson. So that was kind of neat because ironically, last year, we were studying about the geography around the world, the different cultures. So it just happened to fit really well with what we were doing. So most lessons in Math 3 are going to be you reading the lesson. So it's going to be at least a couple columns of that lesson, maybe into the second page. This is different than in Math 4 and Math 5 and on. So starting in Math 4, they're going to have a video teacher teaching them this part, and then the independent work they do on their own. So this is the last level of math that you would do with your child, reading to them, making sure that they're getting it. So just to kind of give you that awareness. So once you've kind of gone through the lesson together, there's also, by the way, some games you often get to do with your kid. And my son loved those games. He would just look forward to them so much. And then there'd be, I'm going to say a page, give or take, of the practice. So this is when they're practicing the specific thing for that lesson. And then they would do the review activities. And sometimes in the review, there'd be logic. I just noticed that my son didn't do this part. And this would have been like the beginning of last year. Anyways, so the review lesson and activities they would do. And this is just to remember what's going on. So let me go about halfway through and see if I see some different stuff here. So here's an example of one where they were doing, is it estimated time? Yeah, estimated minutes that it would take you to do different tours, which was kind of neat. Again, the pictures are phenomenal in here. I'm trying to find one of the review sections that has those tangram things, because every so often there will be what I call logic games that they get to practice. And the logic games are fun because it's something that's different than their math lesson. And so it makes them kind of get challenged and think out the box. All right, those are fractions, not what I was looking for. Anyways, I'll keep looking. But also, what's going to happen in this book is you're going to do a certain section, and then you're going to get to review activities that are going to be a whole lesson of review. Often those review are going to be lots of games. So they're going to do, like, again, math games to practice the concepts of that whole unit. And then what's going to happen is you're going to take an assessment. So in the assessment, and this is true in all the levels, so I've come across this every time. They give you instructions, but basically on the first day of the assessment, you just have them do the purple section. So you say to that, like, you can either have them do the whole thing, or I broke it down sometimes into a couple days just based on it was kind of long. So I would say do the purple sections that first day, and I'd maybe pick however many purple sections I wanted them to do. This one is at least a couple pages longer, so it goes for a couple pages. So pick however you want them to do. And then they're going to give it to you, and your job is to go through and correct it. Now, if they made a mistake in that section, what you're going to do is let them practice the next. So the next day, they're going to go through and do the orange sections. The orange is like a review to show, okay, let's master this a little bit more before we go on. So there are at least 4 assessments in the whole thing. And the nice thing is that it kind of gives them an idea, number one, how to take tests, because if they go to middle school or public school down the road, they're going to need to know how to take those tests. But it's kind of like a soft way of doing it. They're not getting you don't have to give them a percentage and things like that. All right, here's an example of that tangram. I meant to show that earlier. So what's going to happen on these tangram logic ones, they're going to use those pieces. It'll tell you which colors to use, and then they're going to make you do the shapes. Now, I think the younger levels, they put the colors in to show them, but this time they have to actually use that as well. So I would love, if you have any questions or ideas about this, or specifically about Math 3, please feel free to put it in the comments. Also, the website has a ton of resources on it, and there's 1,000 other videos on the internet that will probably be just as helpful, if not more. So I'm just letting you know that it really worked for me, and I felt what was nice about it was that they got to learn a lot about stuff around the world too. I mean, we learned math, but we also learned culture and different things about countries as well. One thing I don't have left is in the very back of the book, there are some cardboardy punch outs that are things you're going to use in the lesson. So there'll be hand-on pieces you can use that will help you out. I really liked these because, like with fractions, it was nice to have little things that you could use to help teach some of those things. So overall, I would say this was a great program. If you are doing this with your oldest child or just any of your children that you need to just like to sit down with, this will be a really gentle and sweet time with them. I didn't have, as far as I know, too many tears from this one. However, I felt like it was really that they learned a lot of math in that. And now my son is starting into Math 4, and he's having a great time, and he's transitioned to using those videos as the teachings and doing his lessons, and he's enjoying himself. So so far, so good. Hopefully I'll get to do another video on Math 1, which we also did last year as well. And my son loved that too. So hopefully we'll just keep going with some more. So hope you have a great day. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to respond. Thanks.